Hello, Poppy. Well, she's
Hi.
getting all set up. Hi.
Hello.
How you doing, Poppy?
Hey, hey, Poppy, how are you?
Hi. Not bad, thanks. How are you?
Doing all right.
Doing good. So it's like Tuesday evening for us and Wednesday morning for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty early on Wednesday morning, isn't it?
9:15 now, I think.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that's
Not too
right. 14 hours. Okay. You're 14 hours ahead of me.
Yeah, it's always fun. She's always messaging me like either before I'm going to bed or when I'm waking up and she's going to bed. It's like,
Yep.
Yeah.
That's how I am with Jamie Cook. He's in Australia.
yeah.
Yes.
You message me early in the morning too, Jessica. You usually message me like right before I wake up.
Oh, yeah, I try. I know. I'm so bad. Even with people who live in my time zone, I'm early for them.
Yeah, you must be because you're messaging me at like 5, like like 6, 5:30 in the morning sometimes. 8 your time, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like,
That's
I hope
fine.
these people have their phones on silent at night.
No, I sleep with my computer and it makes a big noise.
Mm-mm. Oops. Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
No, it's fine. It's no biggie.
So I had to go for the background today, book 11, and then book 12.
Yeah, the wonderful cover art from Jade and her husband. I think his name is Lad. I just talk with Jade. She's the one I talk to all the time. But yeah, they do this great work. So
Poppy, you are in Japan,
Yeah.
right? Okay. I haven't met you yet, so I'm just like, hi, I'm Jessica.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I am grateful to you. You made these books, like you put the little finishing touches on them so they could come to me so I could read them. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yes. I was lucky enough to be the first or one of the first to read them.
no,
Twice
you-
in some cases. In every case, actually, I got to read them twice.
Yeah.
no,
know-
you read them all first, except for maybe I think Mike probably read some early Shadow of the Dragon stuff. See, whenever I'm writing something new, he always bugs me for it, and then he'll read like
Yeah.
a third of the rough draft.
And I
think
usually
it-
read it. I usually end up reading it right away. I haven't done that with the end of Radiance's Night yet, but I'm getting there.
That's my current. That's my current project, Radiance Night. Well, I'm on Blaze's Night because, of course, I'm
Yeah, I haven't asked
76,000
you
words
for
into the second book. But
So I guess we should start with the title of book 11, James.
yeah, well, first let's introduce Poppy to all our readers. This is Poppy.
Okay.
She's our first time showing up here on this little interviews, and she's my editor. She's been my editor since 2014, 2015.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, with like Assassin's Remorse.
Yeah, we met on Twitter, didn't we?
Yeah, because
Back
we
when
used
I
to
had
have the
Twitter.
same last name.
Yes, my maiden name's Reid, and even the same spelling.
Yeah.
So we were like,
yeah.
hey.
Like I had never met anyone with the same spelling of my last name that wasn't one of my cousins, obviously. But yeah, so it was like,
You were
oh,
like,
hey.
cousin on Twitter.
Yeah, everyone thinks we're related back in the day. They're always like, oh, is Poppy like your cousin? Sometimes I thought you were my wife. I'm like, no, we're just like, it's a weird coincidence that we have the same last name and are working together.
It was
No.
destiny.
Yeah, no, we met. We traded works. I read some of her early stuff.
Oh,
and
back when, yeah, the horrible trilogy I wrote when I was 17. And you were so nice about it too. Good
they had a lot
times.
of good promise. I really did. I really enjoyed the characters. Like, you had really
Oh,
good characters. Like, I'm not joking. Like, I thought your setting was a little flat, but I thought your characters were amazing. And so,
Well,
like,
that's nice.
they carried me through like all of that. So, yeah, I was actually bummed you never finished it because I actually
Maybe one
wanted
day.
to. Actually, yeah. But your other stuff, like your Bard's Lament and the what is it, the Assassin one? I never remember its name, but I have it sitting on my bookshelf. But it's really
Oath.
great. Oath is amazing. Bard's Lament is such a tragic story. You should read that. Just schedule short. You'll cry. It's good.
Oh,
And then you have another one too, don't you? That's like another novella that you did put out after that.
Yeah, they're all part of the Black Diamond series. That's what the Oath is, the novel name, and then the Black Diamond is like the series name. Because obviously there's loads of books called Oath, so I had to add the unique, I guess, subtitle to it, right? I haven't pushed marketing that much for that one yet because remember, James, you said it could have been a trilogy. like that one book could have been
I
stretched
felt
out.
it could have been like a trilogy. You could have spent more time on her training.
I
and then
agree.
you-
Now, I wish that it was a trilogy now. Like, and I think enough happens in that 90,000 words where it could have been like
Yeah.
expanded on. Because
Yeah,
I
and,
can't.
like-
I'm like, oh, you should. People are like, when's the next one coming out? I'm like, I have no idea because it was supposed to be a standalone.
It's a standalone, but like, yeah, I just felt like it was such a great world. I wanted to spend more time with her and the assassin stuff. And then you have some really crazy plots changes, and those would have made great. Yeah, but like there's some great stuff in there. I just wanted more. Is all. I thought this story could have been easily have more stuff to it that would have made it. That really would have let me like get more into the world. It's a really great world.
I started reading that one. I haven't it's one that I wanted to start, and I started, and then I had to keep going with. I probably jumped back into one of the Shadow of the Dragon books at the time, but I have that on, I think it's on Kindle. It's not on, you don't have it on audio, right?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Maybe one day. But thank you
Yeah,
for picking up. That's really sweet.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. So awesome.
All right, so we're here to talk about book 11 of
But
Shadow
we're
of
here
the
to talk
Dragon.
about James. James.
Yeah. Like, check out Poppy stuff. She's an amazing writer. I really do mean it. I love reading her stuff, and but now, yes, we're gonna talk about my stuff, and it feels really weird saying that. I feel kind of like a prick, but yes, kind of what we're here. So it's book 11, the penultimate novel of the Shadow of the Dragon series. Is called Maelstrom of the Gods, or Maelstrom of Gods. I left it out on purpose. I wanted to make it sound like Maelstrom of Gods. I don't know. I thought that sounded better as a title than having that little grammarly correct "the" in there. But yeah, I think it's a very appropriate title based on just the ending of the book and all those sort of swirling machinations. It was always like the problem I had in the early parts of the book. It's like I never was sure like what to do with these gods. Like I had to do something with them, and I needed to like maybe my series. I hope my series all fits together well, but I hadn't figured out a lot of how the actual mechanics of ending the series would work, and like exactly how to fix the Nexus when it got ripped from. Like I knew that would happen, but I wasn't sure how to fix it. And so like book 6, I think I figured it out in book 6, and so it was just to figure out how to get all the pieces into place.
You had to listen to Lumi, and Lumi wasn't all put together yet. So
that's right. Lumi wasn't all put together, so she didn't have the full plan. I didn't have her full plan either. And that's, I don't know. I'm a discovery writer. I have to like sort of put my pieces together as I write and figure out like what I've laid seeds for and build on them. So
I like that discovery writer.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm at that phase with Rise of the Dragon. I'm in the second book, and always the second book is always like I really don't know where the series is really quite going yet. And I hope they'll figure it out. Like I have ideas, but like they're still very nebulous, and they need to be developed more so I can have a clearer idea of what would be the best way to take the ideas. I mean, that's just kind of how I write. I have a hard time seeing like the full picture. I need to write a lot of it before I can see it.
Poppy, what comes to mind to you for something that you enjoy about the book? Or go ahead with what you were going to say.
Oh no, I was just saying that you never would have guessed that reading his books. You know, they seem so perfectly planned out. I mean, obviously they are eventually, but you never would have been like, you know, I'm on the second book. I don't know where it's going. I'm like, really? You trick us all very well into thinking you knew exactly what was going to happen from the first word. So my favorite thing about this series is the characters. Like, how many mains do you have? 7 or 8, right? And they all have their own voice. They have all these POVs, and it's never confusing who's thinking. You know, like you get into their minds so well, and a lot of writers can't really do that, even with just 2.
That's what's fun about writing 12 books is I really got to get into the characters. So yeah, so I really did enjoy that. There's a lot of great characters.
So
like 7 or 8 of them. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah,
I have a question.
Sure.
Is it Tarf or Tharf? Because I've been reading it as Tarf.
It's tough.
I've been reading it as
Dang it.
Thoth, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I know
a-
it has. I know it's TH, but for some reason my brain was like Tarf, and I'm like, okay, he's my favorite.
Yeah, I love Thoth. Yeah.
I love how he's always excited when they're in mortal peril. It's just great. It's like that
We-
blood excitement as, you know, his wife, his vine wife, rolled out of the way of fire, and he's just like, "Oh, this is lovely." I love him. wanna
We've
be his
had this talk. We've had this talk about pronunciation before because I've been since the very beginning seeing it as Vune. And when James does his live readings, it's Voni, and that like kind of blew my mind a little bit because to me, to me, she's always going to be Vune. It's like if I found out like a good friend of mine, all of a sudden I was calling her the wrong name forever, and she still stayed friends with me. You know what I mean? It's like, but yeah, no, you want to talk pronunciation? Some of those scenes, and I'm reading Storm of Tears, the third book in The Storm Below right now, because I'm just slowly making my way through it. Try some of those pronunciations, especially the ones with lots of apostrophes. So
Yeah.
I look forward to that.
yeah, so I found this one a little bit easier, but I always get them wrong anyway.
Yeah, those imperial names.
James,
Poppy,
you're gonna have to do a little what's the word, pronunciation guide for us.
Poppy,
Who else?
how do you pronounce SHUOM?
Schwam.
Shuam? Yeah, same here. Yeah,
Although my
That's-
brain was like Shom. I don't know why. My brain was reading it Shom, even though it's UO.
Oh, when I was first
I just-
writing them, I would always type Shom, and so like I have an autocorrect now on my computer that corrects me when I misspell Shom's name, because I was always calling him Shom early on. Yeah.
Yeah, for me it's always been, you see, it's been Schwam, Uncle Schwam.
Schwam.
Like I don't know. It's but that's the thing. It's, I mean, it, as long as it works for you. As far as the pronunciation guide, one of the things I noticed, I mentioned it about the back of Storm Below, but it's also at the back of Shadow of the Dragon, is the glossary that James writes about in the books about the terms and how all the magic works and all these real specifics. It's like, it's amazing, and it's really helpful because, you know, they're amazing books, but they're some of the stuff gets really complex. So to be able to refer back to some of that stuff, it almost makes you want to read over again, because then if you have a greater knowledge of the ins and outs of the real, you know, intricacies of the magic system, when you go into it, it gives you a completely different reading experience.
Yeah, I like
It
to
really
have
does.
a good fleshed out magic system. So
I
it's
love James's
consistent.
magic systems. It's one of my favorite things, again, about your writing, is you always have really like unique, easy to understand, but not like oversimplified. You know what I mean? Magic systems. Like the Storm Below series too. They all get, you know, one or two, or oh no, they never got three, did they? They got one or two powers.
You could rarely get a third one. There's no character that has one. It's
Right,
more
yeah,
like it's mentioned. So it's so rarely I didn't do it to any character. No, I did it to
Speaking of more than one power, is it book 11 where we find out why Yuden has foundation and death?
gosh, I don't exactly know when we get the specifics. There's kind of, the theory always went back that it happened during the ritual was kind of the early operating theory, but not exactly why or anything. And I honestly don't remember when that gets actually fleshed out. That it's not that he really has death, he has a hole in him that just acts like death.
Right. It's almost like when Zumil was trying to create the hole in Voni, once he interrupted it, it like pierced a hole in him.
Yeah, there's a backlash that's in the scene where Yuden gets hit by shadows as he interrupts the ritual.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. See, that's why Poppy and Mike and I think that you actually planned it all from the beginning. You didn't realize it.
I planned some stuff from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like the death. I knew that death. Like I knew he got that from the ritual, and I knew it would be important. I just didn't quite know how it would be important. That's kind of how it's like, so I know like it'll be important. I know I'll figure it out. That's the hope anyways. One day I fear I'm not going to figure it all out, but so far I've managed to do it. And then there's also going back and tweaking parts of an earlier book before it gets published to make it more align with maybe a little change I need to make. So that also helps. I did that with The Storm Below. I went back early on and seeded a certain name in book 1 and book 2 that is relevant at the end of book 3 going on. So
Okay.
I'm not gonna say what the name is because Mike's still reading book 3. But
I'm so excited to. It's very different than this series because it's not a walking quest or like a journeying quest. It's kind of like it's very different. Like it's I don't want to. It's more of a military fantasy. I don't want to say it's more stationary because there are a lot of different locations and there's a lot of different places they go. But it's a very different story, and the epicness of it. I feel like Shadow of the Dragon kind of, by the time you get to the end of book 2 and especially book 3, it feels insanely epic, like kind of right at the beginning. Storm Below kind of really builds in that each book is like slightly more epic than the next, and apparently book 5 is the most epic thing you said you've ever done, so I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, there's things I do in book 5 that are insane.
And it's long too. It's like 1,000 pages long, so I'm really stoked.
I had to shrink the font size to fit it in the print book.
Wow.
So, yeah, like it's 11-point font instead of 12-point font. That was the only way I could make it that I could get Amazon to print it, because it was like 50 pages too long for them to print. So yeah.
Gotcha. So I like that in Shadow of the Dragons, it's like as far as the epicness, it's every 3 books you have epicness, again. But then when you get to 10, it's like the whole 10, 11, and 12 are all complete action, go, go, go. And I was telling James earlier, I said I was gonna have trouble doing this video tonight because I didn't text him as much about these books because I read them so fast, and I was like, I didn't take as many notes. I'm not gonna know what to talk about. But I do know that so Maelstrom of Gods starts out with Yuden unconscious after trying to drink the dragon juice from the door and make it keep the dragons from where they weren't dying, but it was like it was
just a lock on the door, and he just took a bunch of power into him, and it just overwhelmed him and knocked him out for a bit.
Yeah.
And then I think it let a god have a conversation with him. So that's what they like to do when he's unconscious.
Right.
They like to have philosophical debates with my main character about the pros and cons of like what he's doing.
Mm-hmm. While he's unconscious.
Yeah.
And I noticed I did a quick reread of just a few parts of 11, and when Zai is just like, he's not the 7th one, he's not number 7, he's not number 7, as far as having to have 7 sacrifices, and she's just like in denial, like it's just
she's in complete denial. She knows it, she just doesn't want to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
typical Zai. But I mean, if I knew so as much as Zai, then I probably would decide what I wanted to believe and think about as well.
She's a fun character to write, but
how is she to edit, Poppy?
She always is confused on what version of Zai it should be. She's like, is this the correct one? Yeah.
It wasn't so much with that. It was like calling them past or present. That's what because it was in the past. Obviously, the books are in the past tense. But I was like, she should be present. We had a kind of not an argument, but we had a bit of a debate about that. No, what I think the reason Zai's in such denial also is because she's so used to changing the future, and not being able to just knocks her off her feet, right?
Makes sense. That's a good one. Yeah, this is like an inevitability that this is going to happen. Like it was done like the moment he made his deal with Hede. Like Yuden's like, I'm on this path, and it's that's just where it's going to go. So yeah, that was it's an interesting sort of fatalistic sort of character turn for him there at the end. So I don't know. I liked him making that choice. I
Yeah.
guess, yeah. Like the whole series is about like courage, so it felt like he needed to do some sort of choice like that, where he really needed to just make a moral choice. And there we
You
go.
know, one thing that surprised me as I was reading book 11 was when we found the Master of Doubts in his jail cell and he was hanging.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was just like, whoa. And then I was thinking, did he, you know, I was like, he should have been, the way he was acting, how he was just so conflicted, you know, my first thought was somebody should have been with him. He should not have been left alone. And then I realized that it wasn't, I immediately thought he did it because it just has led up to that where, okay, he's just decided that he's done. But who was it that said no, it had to be somebody else?
It was Zai, because Zai
Zai.
saw the future and saw that he went off on his mission and was successful. And so it meant someone had to change her vision. So she concluded that there had to be someone here. That's why she tracked them down and ended up with Captain Sanguivis. Well, I didn't say that name right, but he got killed, sadly. And which is a shame. I
Yeah,
really
she was
liked
so
him.
angry.
He was one of
The
my favorites.
the Master of Doubts is great too, and in the some of the revelations that later on that Ruan shares about, you know, how there for her the Master of Doubts was, and how she almost saw him as him, her, them.
All of you have
as
said
a-
him. It's they, them. How
They-
many of those did I change when I was editing your book,
they,
James?
them.
Thousands.
How many
Right.
times
Thousands
did
of
I
them.
change him?
Thousands.
The way-
Pronouns
so the
are
way-
important. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Mike.
I always, for some reason, even though I know that they're them, I always, for some reason, see the worms as male. I don't know why. Like
Yeah.
I can't.
Master suggests male, right? It's not mistress of doubt.
So I was gonna say, like, you know, a father figure to Ruan, but I guess it could be a mother-father figure to
It was a
Ruan. But
parental figure, definitely.
yeah,
But I think Ruan felt it as a very father figure versus, because she had like a mother figure that tried to sacrifice her, and then she had a father figure that indoctrinated her into a crazy cult. And so in a way she was let down by both her parents. So
well, there was a really, it was tragic because there was a really kind of strong redemption arc for the Master of Doubts, who by the end was almost like a heroic character a little bit, and you realize that was probably how they started out, with the best intentions, and then that's it, and it was pretty tragic that happened. And I think it was handled well. The way Ruan dealt with the grief and stuff like that was done really well too. And that happened in book 11, right?
yeah, this was all book
super-
11. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I want to say that book 12 there was a big denouement, and a lot of like. Well, we'll get to book 12.
Yeah, no. Book 11 was just about like setting up everything for the end game and having crazy philosophical debates with gods, some of which are trying to murder you, and choices. And I think book 11, the ending of book 11, is like the favorite thing of mine I've ever written. Just all the various ways they dealt with the gods and how they conversations with them, how the different characters had to convince them to make the right decision, and the various ways we went about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Let's
that's
talk
really-
about those pairings, because that was, I'm having trouble remembering because, like I said, I read it so fast. I need to read it again. But I remember it was significant, like which dragons and which gods were on which islands with which characters. Like there was always a certain dynamic that just worked, and it was perfect that they specifically were discussing it with each other. So discuss, because I don't remember the details.
Okay, so I wish I remembered the specific. There's a lot of characters involved.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna try.
So Besso was with Daf, Dao, and Shuam. And so they went at her from a very sort of communication, and she's all about communication and thought, and they sort of they were trying to just say like, hey, like if this goes down, like it'll be the end of thought and the end of communication, I think is how I went with Besso, and trying to just convince her. Teyubid was with
and that was
Ruan
perfect
mostly.
because Shuam is the librarian, and starts out, that's his whole thing, is knowledge and understanding, and then to get the goddess of breath, right, that is all about breath brings thought and understanding, and that was one of those that it's just, I know one of them was they were thinking of attacking and then they stopped. Was it Besso, and they stopped and said, wait a minute.
Teyubid
this
was
one
the
will-
very rational one. He was like, he only attacked them to stop the dragon from messing with him. And he
Okay.
was just like, he wanted to convince them very rationally. But he, I think, was also the one that was most inclined to go with them. It's just more like he needed his wife to be convinced, being Besso. And so, because I think he felt a bit of complicity in the guilt of what the gods had done. So that was definitely, his was that one. And then there was Tazif. Tazif is the one that's dealing with, is the one I really like. She's the one dealing with the guilt and the rage and the anger. And she's the one that's most trying to kill her characters because she really wants to kill them, or at least kill Yuden. And she can't directly kill Yuden because if she touches Yuden, they'll just suck her powers up.
Right.
So she's like hurting those around him in like a bid to get him to commit suicide. Like
and he almost
spare.
does.
Well, like it's his pregnant wife getting murdered. Like he was just like, she backed him into like the corner, and it took his wife and Lumi's stopping him and saying, no, you don't get to, like Zai saying like, that's fine, I'm making my stand here too. And and Zai is the one who convinces her, because Zai is the one that really understands relationships, and so she was able to navigate the guilt-ridden Tazif and get her to her catharsis so that she could surrender.
It's just amazing how they all came together. And to the people watching and listening to this, like, I don't know, I would love to get comments on what you thought about that final scene in book 11, because the dynamic of it all, they all split up. And that's the first time that I think we really see a scene where they're specifically split up. Like they cannot get to each other because they are on separate islands. And so they had to use what limited resources they had to work it out. It wasn't like you had all these different sorceries and powers and wizardry all combined in one group. You were
None of that worked anyways. Like they threw everything they had at the gods, and the gods just shrugged them off and like, no, like, we're far more vast. Yeah, you can hurt us, but it's not going to, like, they trap Besso in the metal, and she's like, well, I'm just going to suffocate you guys if you don't take this off me. And it's not really going to change it either.
And one god just threw the chain into the sea.
Yeah, he just grabbed it through.
They were just like, oh, well, that didn't work.
Yeah. Like it worked on broken piece of Lumi that's very weak. It didn't work as well as I thought on the full powered gods. So lessons learned. So
right.
Yeah. But no, it was fun. I had to, like, just thinking of that and figuring out where each character went, and like that was a lot of writing on notepads. Well, not real notepads, it was all on the computer, but like who should be where and trying to figure all that out. Yeah, that's a lot of sitting on your chair and just not doing anything and thinking and calling it work. That's what that was.
Well, thinking of what they were going through at that point, I know at the beginning of book 11, they thought they had killed, what is his name?
The Great Apostate? Well, no, they thought they killed him in the middle of the book. Like,
I have other names for him, but yes, the Great Apostate is what we're going to go with. But yeah, he's a creepy dude.
He's my villain, and he got a little creepier. There was a point, I think, where I wasn't sure if him or Master of the Doubts would be the ultimate big bad. So there was that point. when I was debating like which one really should. But then I kind of more delved into the Great Apostate's motivations, and he stepped up to the plate with his creepiness and the things he was doing, and it built on some of the earlier stuff that I had in there, like, you know, cutting out having your own daughter's heart cut out to present as you. There was like, no, he really is our ultimate villain. Like, I'm not going to have him like he wasn't a villain. I just thought about, I toyed with the Master of Doubt like taking his place, like I came very close to that in the books where the Master of Doubt's like, I got to take out the Great Apostate, and the Great Apostate's like, no, listen, we can destroy the entire world, and the Master of Doubt's like, yes, all right, I don't have to kill you because we're on the same page of insanity here.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
I
it
have
was
a
good that you.
question.
It was
Oh,
good
sorry,
that
go
you
ahead.
focused on. Yeah, no, it was good that you focused on the Great Apostate as being like the big bad, because it also added more
Yeah, plus
depth and tragedy to Voni's.
Yeah, because he was
sort
always
of
Boney's
quest.
grandfather. So that was always, that wasn't something like I retconned like later on. I always knew he was like Boney's grandfather.
Yeah, and you know, like family's family. Like, you know, she, as much as she realized he was an evil bastard, like there was still a part of her that was like, you know,
Yeah,
he's my grandfather.
just like I always know her mom was chilling in that cabin on the island, and I try to pass it off as older future her.
That was really cool.
Yeah,
that was one of the cool. I know this is going back a few books, but the revelation about Voni's mom being alive and that whole thing was probably my biggest shocking jaw-dropping moment, one of the biggest in the series that I was totally not expecting, and it took the entire rest of the series in such a different direction.
okay.
Poppy, you had a question?
She did not. We had a lot of discussions about that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. Yeah. Poppy's a new mom, so she had some like issues with Boney's mother's actions.
Yeah, I was like, are you sure? Are you sure she would have just left her baby? Are you sure she would have just left her baby? Are you sure?
Like,
are you sure?
I'm sure she was. She got pushed. She was a little too much of a coward. But,
yes, and you did write that very well, that she was a very cowardly person, and it made it very believable.
Or I should say, she was a very traumatized and abused person by her father, and so she's absolutely terrified of him. As you see at the end of book 11, when she runs into her father again and didn't expect that, and is not thrilled to be back in his clutches. Yes,
she couldn't even fight against him, could she? So it was it was believable, definitely, in the end. Just at first, when I first read it, yes, we had a bit of a discussion, didn't we, about that?
Yes, we did.
My other question was about if they don't stop the Great Apostate, would he have made a new paradise and become the god, or was he just mental and everyone would have died?
He would have made something. It just wouldn't have been a paradise, because how could that diseased mind make a paradise? It would have been something after. He wouldn't have just been like sucked into the black hole and died with everything. No, he would have ascended to some sort of, he would have basically become like all six of the gods, have all six of their powers, basically.
Cool.
And he would have tried to create his own thing, and it would have been a complete he would not have been satisfied with the results. And
and some random woman whose heart he had that was not his daughter.
Yeah, if he didn't learn that, that poor whoever's heart that is,
I like to think it was the heart of a pig, like in Snow White, and he just brings this
baby,
this pig to life.
I think Voni's father is an evil enough person that maybe he couldn't kill his own wife. He could have killed somebody else and given the heart. Maybe it wasn't even a woman's heart.
I'm just going to believe it was a pig's heart, and that he would have.
That's fine. I honestly, that's paradise. He did. Yeah, that would be funny.
Yeah,
I like it. Yeah, maybe a pig's heart. Go.
You really let yourself go.
That needs to be like you have the credits in the movie, and that's like the final scene, like alternate ending. It works, and then here's this pig.
It's just like